Hello everyone and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan. Thank you for coming to the channel and thank you for visiting with me the 135 gallon freshwater display tank in the dining room of my apartment in Chicago. This is the tank my family sees the most. It's in a more public area, if you will, in our house. Not that anybody's home is a public area, but you know what I mean. It's out there, it's not tucked away in my fish room, so I have to keep it as good as I can, and I'm mostly succeeding at that, at least by my eyes. But I did want to cover a few things that I'm working on in this aquarium to try to make it even better, maybe fix some problems, and maybe do absolutely nothing but share with you some observations about phenomenon, not all of them good, that will happen in a robust community aquarium such as this. As some of you know, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, I started releasing live baby fish fry from my live bearers tank. Obviously live bearing fish make live bearing babies, and I released groups of fry into this aquarium so that these bodacious rainbow fish, gimonstrous Siamese algae eater, and glorious angelfish could eat some live food, super healthy and nutritious, and also assist me in culling what was becoming a very overpopulated live bearers aquarium in the other room. Well, that worked super good, except some of those baby fish I released into here had other ideas. They didn't want to be somebody's dinner, and you're looking at a black molly here that somehow survived the purge and avoided this ravenous group of fish. I'm telling you, when it's feeding time, they go bonkers. Somehow Mother Nature gave these little here's one. This is actually the first fry I put in here. Now it's a full-blown adult. It's a beautiful fish, and I don't mind it at all in this aquarium. I'm just afraid that the same problem that happened in the other tank, which forced me to start figuring out a solution for all those babies, is gonna start happening in this tank. Now that's a glorious gold dust molly. The thing with putting live bearers in a big system like this is you're gonna get just show-stopping quality out of these fish. I mean, that's a stunning animal. And the black molly is no slouch too. I love the finnage on these sort of hybrid leer tail, veal. I've got veal tail, sword tails in here, and mollies. But in any event, the population is starting to get a little bit bigger. Every time I look at this aquarium, I find another black molly like that guy up there. So what I did, because I don't want to try to catch them. It looks like it would be relatively easy up there. Throw some food in and net it. But if it avoided all these fish, it sure as hell can avoid me. So what I did, and I think this is going to work pretty well, and it's fairly humane too. It's kind of a cool idea. That's the overflow back there, which feeds into the sump below the aquarium. Normally, to protect, when I put in a whole bunch of small amano shrimp, I put a strainer up against that overflow. You can see right now that the strainer device, the mesh netting, I pulled it the other day, and what'll happen is, what I was fearing for the amano shrimp being sucked in there, I'm hoping that, especially in the evening when the fish are quiet and the little babies are just up there, that they'll just be pulled by the forces of the sump into that overflow and then go down into the sump below, and they can live a pretty good life down there. One of the good things about having mollies in your aquarium is they're extremely good algae eaters. Top 3 really. You can make a case they're the very best eater of certain algae. They will rid your tank of various hair algae. You don't see any in this aquarium. That's not to say the credit goes to the mollies, but they didn't hurt. And I will tell you from experience, they're brilliant cleaners of algae. And there's a lot more of that down in the sump. So I don't even have to feed them down there if they go. And I have seen them in there. I have seen mollies, babies down. Let me just, down in here. Well, the odds of seeing one as I film here are 1,000,000 to 1. I mean, but look at that. If you're a shrimp or a small fish or even a bigger fish, you're gonna be in heaven down there. That's the aquarium under the aquarium, and what an ecosystem for a fish to grow up in. Now, is this a long-term forever solution? No, because ultimately the fish keep growing up and reproducing, but it allows me at least the peace of mind knowing that I have some kind of plan in the event that this gorgeous community tank becomes too populated by mollies. As beautiful as they are, this is not what this aquarium was all about. I want numerous different species highlighting rainbow fish and angelfish, not a whole bunch of live bears. And that's that, all right? I'm hoping it works. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I'm a man with a plan. I hardly ever talk about the Bolivian Rams. I have 2 pair. They always are from this red tiger lotus to here. That's their territories. And I don't know that either of the pairs have spawned, but they definitely hang out in twosomes. I see 1, 2, 3 right now, but I have no reason to believe that the other one isn't in there nearby. The other thing that's been happening in this aquarium is my Farawala catfish. You see the tail of one there, as well as some of my spike tail catfish. That's not quite the right name, and the Plecostomus. This is a baby. My plecos spawned in here. I don't use the caves or anything like that, but there are caves in here. I'll show you one right there, just like in the wild. And there are more and deeper back in under this wood behind the Anubias. They have spawned, and I have seen tiny versions of this glorious catfish, tiny versions of this glorious catfish, and tiny versions of even the Farawala, which excites me to no end. But again, especially with bristle nose, they can get to that 5, 6, 7 inch, in a tank this robust, and that'll become a problem. And I'm not sure what the hell I would do about that, because I am not ripping up this aquarium to try to catch some catfish. Now, there are traps and things, and I'm not there yet. Everybody's happy. I see 0 aggression. Do you? I mean, we've been filming for going on 10 minutes, and look at how peaceful and happy these fish are. Even with me in front of the tank, which would normally bring out their aggression because it's feeding time and they want to get there first, you're seeing a pretty peaceful interaction between a wide array of species, some of them considered, mildly aggressive, angelfish being a perfect example. This pair has spawned for me before, but not lately. Not since they were sick and I fixed them. And after that, maybe that took the love instinct out of these two. Oddly enough, the female's the smaller one, and the male's this big, flowy, beautiful one. I don't know that it's odd, but I always thought it was the other way around. The male looks a little more blunt and to the point, and this one much more beautiful. But that was a mated pair. Still is, just not mating anymore. There's a couple strains of Bosmani, and there's a perfect camera shot, the yellow back and the orange back. I think that's pretty fascinating. This orange back, there's two of these that I got from Dan at Sydney's Angels, and they're a strain from the renowned Gary Lane, and it's probably like F20, 20th generation, so it is beautiful, but I don't really, I'm not really looking at the DNA here. That one does seem to have the most beautiful orange portion with that white trim. And this guy is no less beautiful, but there's some sort of purples and blues infiltrating the orange in the back there. So there's 3 different kinds of Bosmani in here. Now they're all the same species, but there's those color morphs. So that makes it interesting for me. There's a couple females as well. They're much more drab looking, but I believe you should always have both sexes represented if at all possible. Even if one sex is far more beautiful than the other. I just believe, and I know many of you share this belief, that it makes not only the fish happier, but more beautiful. Whatever sex is prominent in terms of its display quality, it will be better, and then the other fish will also look better. So there's my 2 cents on that issue. I hardly ever talk about the schooling fish, the Harlequin rasboras and the cardinal tetras. It's funny, when the lights go out, they all migrate across the tank, and I see them over here. And I love that. It means that they're not sort of fixated on one spot and are sort of terrified into that particular area. They feel comfortable, even at their diminutive size, to move everywhere and anywhere in this aquarium. I did a fairly significant amount of trimming, believe it or not. The Hygrophila coriambosa, that's the leafy stem way in the back. I know it's behind the sword stems, but and it was all the way up, and it was scraggly, and the bottom stems were barren, and there was white roots everywhere. It was, in its own way, perfectly fine, but I pulled that all out. I clipped some of the side growth and brought it to my LFS, and I planted a few tops back down there, which will eventually grow up and go right in front of that overflow. And they're able to sort of weather being sucked around by it. But I did that. I also clipped some dead or dying Amazon sword plant stems. The bristlenose do eat some of the flesh from some of the leaves at the Amazon sword, and I also think it's vulnerable because where it's planted, now it's not an epiphyte obviously, and it's not stuck to that rock. It looks kind of like it is, which is cool, but that plant definitely needs to be down in the substrate. And while it is, I think the substrate has maxed out its nutrient load for this area in the last going on 2 years. I do use an aqua soil, and I had lava rock under there, and I think I put some root tabs way back, but all that's obvious. I mean, not obviously, it just has, in my view, been absorbed, and the plant has suffered. And when the leaves start to suffer, the plecostomus have at it, because the flesh is more easy for them to digest. And I'm sure that's what they've done. So it's not at the end of the world. I just clip off. I let the plecos do what they do. on those few stems, and then I just snip them off. And I coulda, shoulda, woulda snipped some of those stems as close to the bottom as I could. You can see the 3 stalks right there, just in front of the cereal stone. So that's, that's a bummer in a way, a mild bummer. Not for the plecostomus, but for me. I mean, from a couple feet away, it doesn't affect the aesthetic. But it used to be a perfect starfire, that Amazon sword, right in the center of my aquarium between the 2 pieces of driftwood. And now it's a little, funky, but so be it. And while that's been a little bit of plant suffering, I'm happy to report that this red tiger lotus, which I thought was going to fizzle up and die, appears to be coming back, and it's staying tight and bushy, which is kind of cool. When I first got it, now granted, it could have been another bulb. I bought a couple, but the first time I put this species in here, the leaves promptly shot to the surface, and I was cutting them to keep them bushy, and well, certainly it succeeded if that strategy worked, if this was the plant that I was cutting. But I also think it could just be the other variant that doesn't grow as tall and high and big. And there's a green and a red and one that grows bigger. I love them all, and I'm really happy because it's really the only red plant in here at all. But that makes it kind of cool, like a carnation and a tuxedo, right? A green tuxedo with the red carnation. Sort of a neat effect. If you think about it, when it comes to red, you either try to have a whole ton of it, different kinds, or just one so that it pops. I do have some vaguely purplish views from the Bucephalandra. I'm really pushing it though. I mean, blue and purple, they will call certain species of Bucephalandra, purples and blues and browns. And here you're seeing basically what they'll look like in your tank, kind of variations on green with little hints of purple and brown. Certain more exotic variants do display those colors pretty fantastic, and maybe in this aquarium that's as good as it's gonna get, especially if I'm having trouble nearby with that sword. Maybe whatever has ailed it keeps some of these plants from reaching their full potential. The Vallisneria and the Cryptocorin do not have that problem. As a matter of fact, it was the Vallisneria and some crypts and that giant hygrophila back there. That's what I brought to my LFS this morning, having trimmed last night. And my friend at Ocean Design Aquarium gave me a couple clown killifish for my trouble. I was looking for 2 males because I have 3 females in another aquarium, and I was able to make that trade. And he can get rid of big, healthy Vallisneria and good, solid crypts with the white roots pretty quickly. I'm just focusing on this lemon blue eye plecostomus as he does what he's paid to do on the branch there. Oh yeah, the crowd-pleasing blue gourami and the underrated dwarf neon rainbow fish. My God, there are so many silvery blue fluorescent rainbows, and everybody talks about one or the other and has new trending favorites, but when you have healthy dwarf neon rainbow fish like this, that's a male right there, you can tell by the orange. I mean, it's hard to beat, and they're only 2.5 inches, and they have that rounder shape, so they just don't occupy a ton of space, and they don't get monstrous. That's right, you're the most beautiful princess in the aquarium. The veal tail, sword tail. Look at that. No fish is picking on those fins. That's a great sign that there's minimal aggression in this tank. Those long, flowy finned creatures have long, flowy fins. They're not all beat to hell from being chased all around the aquarium. Does anyone have any questions as I focus on the 3 red pancakes, these Millennium rainbow fish? What do you think? What do you think about my live bearer strategy? First of all, putting them in here as food, and then second of all, trying to deal with them after they decided they don't want to be food. The pleco's eating some leaves. Is that a high-class problem? Is that just considered feeding the fish? Maybe that's the way to look at it. You're just feeding the fish. It's what they would do in the wild. It doesn't affect the aesthetic of the tank. Just, you know, us highfalutin aquascapers are always aspiring to perfection, and how dare Mother Nature take over. That was sarcasm. I want Mother Nature to take over. Have at it. Have at it, lady. Go for the gusto in this aquarium. And as for you out there, thanks for stopping by. As usual, keep your hands in the tank, and ciao for now.